Welcome back, my night outers. This is DJ Psycho Eddie. In the hot seat tonight, we have Mark Curtis. I did manage to forget, and I always forget something. Well, I forget a lot of things, actually. But to open the show tonight, we had Down City Armory, Double Wiretap. That was the song you just listened to was Melissa and the Liberators, All Used Up. Well, Mark, we had a few words, conversation, whatever you want to call it, off the air about being in movies, and you had quite an interesting story about a local gentleman's establishment. Could you relay that in much cleaner terms
without giving away too many secrets? And I think it's well known around Rhode Island that because we did stories about this on Channel 6 when I was there. I work as a movie extra. I'm a SAG-AFTRA member, so I get bit parts in movies. And I started doing this when I worked out in San Francisco. And when I moved to Rhode Island, I had no idea how many movies were shot here and in Massachusetts. And so I signed up. In fact, the first thing I worked on here, because it just started filming when I got here, was Body of Proof, the ABC show that was shooting in downtown Providence, where I lived at the time. So that was great. So consequently, I've been in probably a dozen different movies or TV shows since I've been here. And one of them is Bleed for This, the Vinnie Paz story. That'll be coming out probably in December or January. We wrapped on shooting that in this past December. But one of the more interesting scenes I was in was at the Foxy Lady, the famed
gentleman's
establishment or strip club or whatever the heck you call the things nowadays. Why do they have to sanitize everything?
Well, it's connotation.
Gentleman's club makes it sound like everybody goes there in a coat and a tie or a tuxedo. Anyway, so we had to shoot a scene. In fact, I remember we had to shoot it at 5 o'clock in the morning. One of the few hours, apparently, that place is closed. And it involved Vinnie Paz. Everyone knows is not only a world champion boxer, but he was kind of an aficionado of gentlemen's clubs, if you will. He loves to go to them.
Oddly enough, I've run across him a few times in different gentlemen's clubs.
Well, I've never been to one, and I haven't been to one since. And I'm telling you the truth, my wife is probably listening, but honest to God,
it's your story. You can tell it any way you want.
But we did. I got called for a scene, and they said it was very secretive up until the last minute. And they said, come to Foxy Lady over on. In fact, it's right near Channel 6, right around the corner. In fact, I'd never been in it. Anyway, we shot the scene, but at one point and you're an extra. You're in the background. You're throwing dollars. You're smoking cigars. You're doing whatever. And all of a sudden, the director came over to me. They were moving everybody to one of the stages, and they're moving Miles Teller, who's the star of the movie, and he plays Vinnie Paz. They sit him down, and they come over and grab me. They just picked me at random out of 30 people and said, come over here. We want you to sit to the left of Miles. And here's a bunch of fake dollar bills. When the stripper comes over and Miles starts putting dollars in her G-string, we want you to do the same. And with enthusiasm, so yell and scream and wave your arms and be obnoxious. And so, and I'm to the left, Miles is in the middle, and the camera's to the right, shooting from an angle, profile shot of us. So there's no way I'll wind up in the editing room floor in the scene if they're going to use it. And there was a lot of film shot in that strip club. And it was funny because one of the dancers, I remember her name was Roxy, she came up to me and she goes, I see you in here all the time. You're one of our regular customers, aren't you? And I said, no, I've actually never been in here in my life. And she looked at me and she goes, well, why do I know your face so now? I said, well, because I anchor the 5 o'clock news on Channel 6. That's probably why. She goes, oh, yeah, that's right. I watch you every night before I go to work. So I haven't been back since. Roxy, hi, if you're listening. You were very nice. But so that movie will come out in December or January. It was a lot of fun doing movies. I was also in a movie I'm really looking forward to called The Finest Hours. It's a true story. We shot it out in Chatham on the Cape over 3 days. Casey Affleck is the star, and Holiday Granger is the female lead from England. And it's the true story of 2 oil tankers that broke in half off Cape Cod during a horrible storm back in the winter of 1952. And the Coast Guard, they're going out to rescue. And they didn't rescue everybody, but they rescued quite a few. And we shot the final scenes in the movie there, the welcome home to the docks in Chatham, where they brought back all the surviving sailors from the 2 oilers. And it was a Disney movie with an $80 million budget. And I tell you, when you work on a Disney movie, you know it. They don't spare no expense. It was really something.
It's kind of like working for Rhode Island Free Radio.
Yeah, $80 million budget. Yeah, sure. Go ahead and bring a couple of oil tankers
take
in here.
a few zeros off that. Right now we're working on refrigeration and air conditioning.
Yeah, that's a start. And then the other one I'm in, we just shot over in Cranston. In fact, we shot it at Cranston East High School back in April. It's called November Criminals. I can't think of the two. My kids would know the names of the two stars. They're these two good-looking 20-something actor and actress who everybody loves. I can't think of their names, but they're gorgeous kids. But it's something that generation knows who they are, and they look like Buffy and Jody from what was that show? The Family Affair, for all I know. But it just goes to show. I guess I know who the Kardashians and the Jenners are, but as far as the younger generation, movie stars and TV people, I have no idea.
Well, that's one thing I wanted to throw out there. Doing due diligence and research, I found out that you did date Caitlyn Jenner.
No. I thought you were going to tell another story. No, I didn't date Caitlyn Jenner. That was just a joke. I said I dated someone who's named Caitlyn Jenner. That's a funny thing, and that was the whole premise of the thing. There is probably...
I didn't say which one. Your secret's safe with me. It's okay.
There are probably...
and the 6 people who listen.
I'll tell you a funny story about someone I did date once, but... there are probably people... No, you don't need the 7-second delay or the thing to bleep me out.
I was going to say, do you want to take that off the air?
No, we'll go for it. But we were talking earlier about there's probably people, women in the country named Caitlyn Jenner who all of a sudden get all kinds of notoriety simply because they have now the name that Bruce Jenner has taken. So that'll be interesting. I'm sure we'll see a whole story. Remember that show, To Tell the Truth? I am Caitlyn Jenner. And they all stand up and all claim to be anyway.
Now, since your unfortunate separation from Channel 6, we'll call it, or fortunate for whichever the case may be,
Martin Luther King said, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last.
You have a few side projects that you work yourself anyways.
Yeah, I do.
Like I mentioned before, you're a food blogger.
Yeah.
And you also do Let's Brunch About It.
Yeah, the Sunday Political Brunch is my political column on my website. Could I do the shameless plug? MarkCurtisMedia.com is my website. MarkCurtisMedia.com.
Mark Curtis Media.
I'm looking for work. Hire me. MarkCurtisMedia.com. But every Sunday, you're right, I publish a political column.
All right. Now, how did you get the name Let's Brunch About It? Is it because, like the rest of us in this room, you're more apt to eat?
I suppose.
Was that the politically correct, sanitized way of saying that?
That's funny. When I was a kid, I'm one of 7 kids, and my parents were news junkies as well. We're the only family I know that had a television set on the counter in the kitchen while we ate dinner. And we'd watch Walter Cronkite or Huntley Brinkley. I'm really dating myself now. And we would sit there during dinner. My parents would talk about it. They weren't very politically active people in terms of they were out, waving signs and banners and stuff. But
they were aware.
They were political junkies. And they loved talking about it, and they were Depression and World War II generation folks, so they had a lot of history to talk about. So we always grew up having dinner, talking about news and politics around the dinner table. So a few years ago, in fact, next Saturday or next Sunday will be the 4th anniversary of me writing this column every week. Is I decided, when you're in the problem with the blogging business is for most people it's just completely irregular. You write on Tuesday, and then if you don't feel like it, you don't write till Thursday, and then maybe you take 10 days off, and then one day you wake up and go, I should post something. I decided that in the media business, people or viewers, consumers are creatures of habit. They expect the newspaper on the doorstep at 6 o'clock every morning. They expect the newscast to come out at 5 o'clock at night, and this and that. Of course, in the internet age, that has all changed. But I'm getting a phone call here. Somebody must be listening to me and wanting to talk to me. We'll talk to them later. But anyway, I decided to do a regular column that I could publicize on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and everywhere. Every single Sunday, I would take some event that happened the previous week. I do a lot of poll analysis. I just like to do a snapshot and make it politics that's kind of fun and interesting for the average person. I'm not trying to get a PhD in political science by writing this every week. I try to, last week I did a column on political jokes. This week I did one on Link Chafee, the longest of the long shots for president, I called it. But I just try to find interesting nuggets. For Memorial Day weekend, I did a story about famous people in the United States that served in the armed forces. Some
I
of them
actually
died.
did read that.
So,
it was quite interesting.
Yeah, and that's the idea, is to, because a lot of people, not everybody's going to tune in and watch C-SPAN for 8 hours a day. That can be hypnotic. I want politics to be fun for people, but informative at the same time.
Well, I think that's part of the problem is a lot of the GOP, the old regime that's in politics right now, do not want politics to be that interesting for the younger generation, so they stay the hell out of it.
Well, and there's something to be said for that. Look, the truth of the matter is young people don't vote historically. It's interesting. I always found that interesting because the whole premise, and I forget which amendment what it was now, 25 or 26, they moved the voting age from 21 back to 18. And that happened at the height of the Vietnam War, and with the premise that if people were old enough to fight for their country, they should be old enough to vote who the decision makers will be. And after that, it fell with a giant thud. Young people have never historically voted in great numbers. Now, that changed all when in 2008 when Barack Obama ran, because they very wisely in that campaign engaged people on social media and were the first political people to really do that to any effective extent. And so consequently, a lot of young people did come out in 2008 and voted for Obama. A lot of them stayed home in 2012. But, it's to me, and so some of the politicians, I think, count on that. They think that people are going to be disengaged, and they try and focus only on the people who vote and are seemingly engaged. I find that kind of cynical. I think you've got to run as a candidate for everybody and not just certain subgroups.
We're going to take a break here. Let's regroup our thoughts, but we're going to leave here with Hammer and Snake, Pump Jack. You're listening to My Night Out Radio on Rhode Island Free Radio. We'll be back in a minute.